Welcome to the Compost Pile, a podcast where we break down gardening, homesteading, and more. Join your hosts, David Poole and Aaron Barnhill, as they pile up information and break it down so that you can be more successful in the garden. Hey guys, welcome back to the Compost Pile, your source for all things gardening and homesteading. I'm really excited this week to bring on a longtime friend and guest, Mr. Brent Hieronymus of Donna's Farms. Donna's Farms was a staple in our community for a long time, producing naturally grown produce for the farmers markets, and they had their own farm stand. So we got an opportunity to sit down with Brent and learn a little bit about what's happening with the farm nowadays that they're no longer growing, and take some lessons from their successes and failures as one of the largest farms here locally in Southeast Texas. So check out the episode. Hope you enjoy and stay tuned.
Hey guys, I'm Brent from Donna's Farm, catching up with David Poole here at Mid-County Feed. Been about 2 years since we've really done anything in the gardening world since we closed our farm. I'm teaching at East Chambers High School. I teach culinary arts, what I used to do before I got into farming. So to help give you some updates on what we're doing now in my life, what's going to start happening with the farm, some more content we're going to start putting out to also help with farms and do some more collaborations with David and his crew. So we'll get you caught up on that here for sure. So, but yeah, so like I said, I've been teaching at East Chambers for 2 years now. It's going to be my third year coming in, teaching culinary arts. So I consider it a life skills class.
Well, yeah. So like your background before farming was
culinary. Classic culinary arts, hospitality degree from Stephen F. Austin. Went to culinary school up in the upstate New York at the Culinary Institute of America. They just had a show filmed up there on Netflix, like Next Young Chef or something it was called. That's where I went to school. Came back after school, worked in Houston for a while, saw the opportunity with the farm, started doing that in the farm started in, let me think if I remember, 16, 17, no, before then even. We were 13 years, 11, by the time I moved back, it was like 16 or 17. Got it going, saw the opportunity with tomatoes and businesses with that, because everyone loved tomatoes at the time. Put up our first greenhouse, 504 tomato plants. Was the first, we rocked it out. 7 rows, double, trellis strings. There's some pictures of that. Just looks like just hanging like any beautiful greenhouse. I mean, at peak, we were pushing 1,300 pounds of tomatoes on a Saturday at farmers market pre-COVID. And you're like, you didn't look up for 2 hours, just handing people bags.
Just, going.
Heirlooms, slicers, cherries. So the goal was to expand more on the tomatoes, but then, COVID hit and the business plan went out the door on anything we were doing.
I can imagine like growing food, fresh produce, like as a living could be incredibly difficult. And especially looking at like the climate that we have. Oh yeah. It's so volatile, and like home gardeners know like how volatile it is. So like from a business standpoint, it's got to be incredibly difficult.
Oh yeah, that's why I went down the pathway of greenhouses, because if I can exclude the rain, try to keep things dry, then screen them out with a window screen or something to keep the bugs out, I can eliminate 2 factors for the most part. But then you also invite new factors in the same soil and over, so you got to replenish it. Then you get disease. If you get any kind of disease in there, it starts building up. Yep. I looked into a low pressure steam generator, but they're like $30,000, but it cleans the soil and kills disease. So at the end, that's what we started dealing with a lot more with disease, because we could only feed the soil so much nutrients and replenish it. Yep. But disease just keeps creeping up. We had dealt with nematodes, so that's when I started growing the Asian salad mix in the summertime, which would do great because it would do like 1 cut spicy. But the mustards and stuff would off gas. Once we'd cut it one time, we'd turn them in and tarp it and let it, when it died, it would off gas and help kill nematodes. So we started dealing with nematodes in tomato crops and things like that. So it was like, you may eliminate 2 factors, but there's other ones that start creeping in, you know?
So for people that don't know, what is a nematode?
So nematodes are these micro little worms in the ground. There's 2 types. There's beneficial and then there's bad ones.
There's more beneficial than there are.
Yeah, there's like 4 types of bad ones, and you can get some sprays and soil drenches that organically that help kill them. So good nematodes will kill bad nematodes, but if the soil dries out, if there's not enough food for them, they will die off. So farmer up was it the Rodell Institute, I think it was, or one of them up there. A guy found in his fields he had a lot of nematodes, so he would plant like Florida broadleaf mustard. He'd run 2 tractors, And when it started to flower, it's when the mustard gas was at its most potent, and he would go through and flail mow it for 12 minutes because he had a 15-minute window. And the next tractor would come back and till it under and slick it off with the dirt. And as that mustard rotted down, it would kill the nematodes. And I was like, that's genius. Then I found Osborne and Seed had their Asian salad mix, had a lot of mustards and stuff like that in there, that Brassica family mustards. And they'll grow in the heat. You get a good little stand on them. It's one cut. But doing that, putting it in the ground, did the same concept. It killed the nematode, helped kill a lot of nematodes off. For
one
next
that
month.
always, like, I don't know if you ever tried it or not, but, growing up in the feed store, all the old timers would always plant like cereal rye.
Yeah.
Elbon rye.
Elbon rye, Mr. Taylor is a big fan of that. Yeah.
That's an old time methodology for it. And I think that like those types of like natural controls are definitely better because the drenches, like you mentioned, they don't know the difference between a good nematode and a bad nematode. And so, you're laser focused on the bad pest, but then you jump over and you're eradicating a lot. And so then in turn you imbalance your soil. And that's kind of, I've been studying a lot about microbes lately.
Oh yeah.
And what's the book? The Teaming with Microbes is what I'm reading now. Yep. And, every single microbe has its place in creating balance. And one of the most interesting things I learned so far while traveling through this book was that like bacteria can reproduce at a rate so high that I can't remember, it was in a very short amount of time they could double the size of planet Earth if there were no checks and balances. Yeah. So like protozoas and other types of microscopic organisms that are vital for soil that we don't look as like something that we need, like if they're not there, then like things go bad really fast.
Yeah, the soil food web is a real thing. People don't realize, like,
it's super cool.
As a farmer on a small scale, like I said, Elbon rye works great, but when you need to when the square footage is worth more, production's the name of the game. Yeah. We would rotate a house, tomatoes for 2 years and go rotate through the houses at 5 at one point. We'd rotate 2 years and move them over. So we did 2 houses of tomatoes at one point, and we switched down to 1 because the sales weren't there. But 2 years, then move over. And then between the years, we would do the Asian salad mix to help in the summertime. And then the wintertime would be just like lettuces and things like that. Very light feeders, in a sense. Then top dress between times and try and build nutrients, put in compost back in and microlife and things like that, trying to build the soil up.
Yeah. And that's, that kind of like for small scale people, that's like just goes to show you that crop rotation, no matter the scale, it doesn't matter how small or big you are, like it's a must because things build up, disease, pest pressure builds up, and it becomes uncontrollable. And then you think you're doing something wrong and you're really not. It's just, the environment is no longer conducive for what you're trying to do.
Oh yeah.
And that's it. Just like people will build up resistances to certain things.
Antibodies and back to medicines and things like that. Yeah. For example, my sister-in-law has some metal raised beds and stuff. And she's like, I had so much pressure from the squash vine borers. I said, you've grown the same crop 5 years in a row in the same beds. You don't care how much you add. You've got disease in there. You've got to eliminate. So we finally got I got them tarped with black plastic now, real tight. We're going to solarize them pretty much all summer and let it just cook the soil in a sense to try and then once it come up, we'll open it up, let it kill it off and kind of recarpet again. We'll do that probably once a month to try and kill some of the pressure in there and solarize these beds.
One of the cool things I do like about like some of the metal raised beds, so a lot of them will offer like the netting systems that you can attach to them. So for something like squash vine borers, like while if you put the net up, you're going to have to hand pollinate. Yeah. But you can eliminate access to the stems. Or I'm not going to say it's foolproof, but you might be able to prevent some of those things. So, on a small scale, there are some ways. It's kind of like you were using the screens. You're eliminating some of those access points for pests to be able to find, but they also come with their own cons. Yep. You also eliminate pollinators, easy access.
We never grew squash inside. Now, there are some paranthropic, self-pollinating ones you don't have to worry about. Wind pollinated with tomato plants and a lot of stuff was fine. But the problem you run into with mesh and screen sometimes is the wind can't blow through. It cuts down a ton. And we just, in Florida, they put those big greenhouses over their pools for mosquito purposes. So I bought a 6-foot roll from a company from there, the fiberglass screen. And that was what we ran on the sides. Now, it didn't stop everybody, but it stopped the moths pretty much, tomato hornworm moths. You know, we'd get it every now because they'd come to the vent, so we had venting at the top. But you could feel the difference when the wind would just couldn't blow through as good. So we would run fans underneath for circulation.
Yeah, because
things like
airflow.
that. But then but the aphids can still get in, aphids and whiteflies. But those are actually really easy to deal with if you stay up with your predator protection.
And that's like
lacewings,
aphids. Like if you're more soil focused, and, you know, especially on a small scale, you have the ability to be a little more soil focused than maybe you guys were with such a larger scale. Keeping better soil, you got better nutrition. You know, you're raising that sugar level up inside the plant, and you're eliminating a lot of access for common insects. But when you're in a closed environment like that, you know, there's other stressor factors.
100%.
So it's easy for populations of small pests like that to
explode
take off.
quickly.
Absolutely.
The time you see it, the rule of thumb was if you saw it, you were almost too late.
Yeah.
So we would take, for our soil purposes, we would take a sample, three or four spots per of the 7 beds, each bed once a year or so, probably normally in the fall. Throw them in a container, mix it up, and send them off to SFA to the soil lab up there, we liked it better than A&M because they were a little more closer related to what we had. For that, and they give you nutrients, what you were growing and stuff. Relatively simple test for them to do. But for aphids and like that and whiteflies, we do once a month 10,000 green lacewings. They just kept up with them because the good thing about the lacewings is they're not as flighty as ladybugs. They're cheaper. You hang little cards, you just let them hatch out. The nymphs will eat. You develop a population in there, and the adults eat the pollen from the plants, so they actually kind of help pollinate tomatoes in a sense. Okay. And the nymphs themselves would almost help eliminate it. The biggest issue more when we grew flowers. The aphids on them, you can try and spray it. I had a mister machine dust in it, but you can only do so much trying to spray so often. But we would just got in the habit of getting 10, 15,000 a month automatic ship from about February till July, 6 months in a row or so. And just put them out religiously in the houses and just keep the population alive. To keep and they're not, like I said, they're not as flighty. Once you get them established, they kind of do lay eggs more again, and you keep them up, you know. And they work 24/7 for you, so it kind of helps. But,
yeah,
you know,
that's how I was watching. I was watching an interesting video the other day. It brought up a concept that I never really looked at it in this manner. You know, like simple things like aphids. You know, people would jump to like the catastrophic mindset of like, you know, I've got to get rid of this or it's going to destroy everything. But at the same time, like without them, it's very much similar to the soil food web. Yeah. Without some pest pressure to some level, then you don't have a way to attract predators and beneficials. You know, so it's a cycle. Yeah. So you're gonna have some good, you're gonna have some bad, and you know, our job is to try to mitigate it. You know, alter things to the best of our ability to keep it balanced, but it's impractical to not have pests. I mean, like for us, the you know, army worms twice a year they come out was you would, if you'd missed one, they get in the soil, it would hit you hard. At the time you see it and you're like, God, you have to go through and, you know, BT or spinosad to go in there. And those, it's impossible. You can't. Yeah. Like on a small scale, you know, a regular worm you can pick it and get rid of it, but like those, like. They always got me on potatoes every year. Like right at the very end, the potatoes about to start declining. It's almost harvest time, and then I go out there the next day, and it looks like it's skeletoned them overnight. Yeah, it was always a nice. And I'd be working tomatoes, and I'd notice something like a little. I mean, because they're, you know how little they are at first, and you find them on the back of a couple of leaves, and you get them all at one time. And it's like gratifying because if you miss them, they spread. Because all our plants were planted 15 inches apart. But then we'd put one to one side and one to the other. So they would put them 30 for airflow. We'd run them in a big circle off the lower and lean method. So we had a little more room between, a little more airflow. And then every week there was always something. You'd lower and lean them. You'd sucker the bottom. You had to even balance the fruit load on your plants. Because if you have too much fruit, it stops growing. Not enough fruit, it's just kind of a balance between. Yeah, our rule of thumb was 20 fruit roughly. So if the cluster was like, say, 5 fruit and 3 of them really nice size, I'd cut the 2 small ones off. And they would be chicken or someone wanted some green tomatoes because you're making salsa. It doesn't matter at that point. They weren't really ripe, but that way the clusters looked about the same. You know, I don't have this one straggler because you always seem to. So there was this balance of fruiting and growth. So you're constantly working them, you know, turning green and
the breathing oxygen so much in there, and just, but it was fun.
I could see that. Like, I did like a little soil trial this year, like just playing around, like looking at different retail soils that I've sold for ever, and how they would perform, like in an undersized pot.
Interesting.
Just like, how's the plant going to perform? How's it going to produce? And like, I've definitely noticed like the better soils, they obviously put on more fruit, but the fruit sizes are all really, really irregular.
Yeah.
So then I go back to the ones that produce less fruit. The fruit were bigger. Honestly, I thought they were overall better quality. So it's just kind of interesting to see how things like that perform. Like lower quality soils put on less, but they were higher quality, kind of like growing an heirloom.
Yeah.
You know, and then the one that was kind of like my Fox Farm soil that I did, you know, it's still loaded down.
Yeah.
But they're little
bitty, you know, any size to them.
Some decent medium sized ones, but there was no rhyme or reason, no uniformity at all, and the plants still look pretty healthy.
Yeah.
So it's I think that's really important. Like, you know, the only thing I ever see that people pay attention to that in, or it gets talked about the most on, is like growing like citrus or fruits.
Peaches, fruits and stuff, like,
because you overproduce your fruit, and then citrus is definitely one, because you overproduce one season.
The next one's horrible.
The next one's horrible, minimal, or nothing at all.
Yep,
and then they're like, "What did I do wrong?" Like, you didn't do anything.
The plant did too much.
The plant managed to hold on to all that fruit, and it was too much. Like, so you go out there and call it out, and you'll get less, but you'll get higher quality fruit and the ability to fruit again next year, because it's not spending a whole season. You know, and that's different with tomatoes, and
it is, because you're doing the one and done kind of thing.
Yeah, you're growing them more as an annual in a sense,
right?
As a lot of things.
Someone did do a trial of how long they could grow it for, because every plant, I don't care what it is, if it's a tree, there's a lifespan.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe a year and a half or 2 years. Don't quote me on the study, but they tried to see how long they, in a perfect climate, fruiting the tomato, and it just ran out of energy maybe 2 years in, and just quit and died. It just couldn't produce more. It's just, everything's got a cycle. Like, I learned about a lot of that. And it sounds weird to go, but the A&M does their fruit growing class. I used to do that a couple years ago. Went out there to Fredericksburg, and they talked about peaches, and they thinned the peaches down to about 1 every 6 inches.
Okay.
Otherwise, same concept of fruits and things. They're trying, growing them in a line, kind of different things, and it's really neat to see. Nothing that won't work here, because like, we're just too humid. I mean, a lot of that stuff won't work. We're just too swampy. I tell people, trying to go peaches and some of the stone fruits here. You may get a couple years and they get brown rot, or one of the diseases that always gets them. Not that people can try, but I just tell them, like, you're going to end up having some type of disease here in the swampy soil. But one about every 6 inches was their goal. They'd thin the trees out to get nice sized peaches. Otherwise, you get these little bitty nothing fruits, on that stuff. So, I mean, like, people don't understand, like, the challenges here. I tell, we're just as hot and humid as Florida, but Florida has sandy soil. We're this, I mean, you go west of Houston, south, north, an hour to Kirbyville, somewhere. We're just this swampy soil. You feel it when it rains for a week, and you walk outside and you just feel this, it's
its own microclimate.
It really is. And no matter how much you keep the rain off, the air is thick some mornings.
Yeah.
It's that day in June, your tomatoes look great, and it rains at afternoon, and the sun comes out, and you boiled all the plants, And ours would start getting, and we would, with the greenhouse, we'd get them in earlier, so we get fruit earlier, but they would also die earlier, because this time of year at 10 o'clock, you don't want to be in the houses anymore. They're just holding that, even with like fence and shade cloth that are light diffusing and deflecting, and it's just like, there's so much moisture getting off from the plants on top of that. Even with airflow, it's almost stifling. Like, I would like just look like I went swimming, come out some days after get everything work done, starting at sunrise. But then you don't want to start too early, because if you cut the plants early and you're putting wounds in them, you're trimming them, it doesn't have a chance to heal because there's moisture in the air. So there's this real balance of like
what to do,
when to do, even watering sometimes, So we would, but you don't want to water too late early in the day, like overhead, let's say outside. So we switch a lot of it to drip, but sometimes it's easier with overhead, for certain things. But if you overhead or even drip, if it's too hot in the day still, then you burn the plants. But if it's too late in the evenings, then the moisture sits on them, and it's like you get disease in. It's just like
building that environment.
If you do it in the morning, sometimes it's
a challenge.
It really is. Like I said, we switched a lot of it to drip irrigation, so it was more precise. We weren't growing weeds as much.
Your like big thing for drip for me is your water conservation.
100%. Yeah.
You're being more intentional about it. You're getting, direct application almost to the root zone. I mean, you're not in the root zone, but like and you're getting a soaking, which is what most people miss. Most people don't water deep enough.
No, they don't. They let the top's wet and it's dry and half-inch down. And the plant's like struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we ran, because their drip tapes can go 24-inch, 12-inch. We went to 4-inch drip tape emitters, and ours would do quarter inch. Quarter gallon per hour per dripper. 2 lines. We'd offset them. What did we do? 6 inch? I don't remember. We'd offset where the holes weren't in the same spot. And so that way it was like it would kind of drip more perfectly.
Yeah.
And then we could run. I forget the number now, but we could dump in an hour 500 gallons into our houses. Drip irrigation. And that was every week that you need, because the rule of thumb I think was a half-inch of water of rain per week roughly is what you need.
Yeah, I think the most stuff is a half to like 1 inch.
Yeah, that's a lot of water.
It is. But out of drip irrigation, it'll come out a lot faster than you think. Like I've seen times where people have had it and they run it for too long, and then like the whole area around them is just saturated and soggy, and it's like it's all coming from that drip irrigation. It's like ran it too long.
And it's not that it's tricky. Some people it's hard, but it's just a math number.
Yeah.
This many emitters, this much per they emit. You can get different types of ones, but the biggest thing is not pressure on the lines, because they don't take like 15 psi. It's volume.
Yeah, you can most your drip regulators will drop it down from like average like city water pressure is probably like 50 60. But you're dropping it down to 25 and under. So if you got it full blast, it's not going to be.
You're going to blow the lines out. But then even then. How far are you running it? Is it uphill any? Like, you need enough pressure to go from the same amount the first one. So our greenhouses, on the left side, the entrance on the left, the right was where the back end was. But we didn't realize at the time we were building them, it was just a slight slope to the front. So the front would always get more water because it pushed uphill in water. But over time, as it turned it off, it always seemed the front end always seemed just a little wetter. It's a weird science on this, and to keep the drip emitters up.
If I recall correctly, like on a large scale, I think they recommend, like in irrigation standards, I think maybe about 200 foot of drip tape, like of actual emitter tape per run.
Yeah. Ours were about we 96 foot house, 98 foot houses. We'd run 3 foot. We had about 2 90-foot runs per bed and 7 beds, and our pump was set to run one house at a time. We just valves we turn on and off per house and move it over, kind of thing. And then the funny thing is, so I had drip and overhead in the houses, because when you're doing tomatoes, you want the drip, and we'd run plastic, the weed barrier cloth, and we found each bed had the preset holes to help with that moisture retention and things like that. And the walkways, we'd put white cloth to help reflect light up, and just some science things you learned. We learned from Mississippi State when they used to have their tomato course, but we all had overhead in the house as well. When we'd pull the tomatoes out, strip the house down, reset it, we'd go with our first round of Asian green stuff for the summer. We ran the overhead in there, and the different things like that we could grow, because they need the overhead, because trying to cut 3-inch high baby greens with a quick cut harvester and drip tape in the way is not
it's not going to work out.
Even coverage. So there's pros and cons with everything. Trying to cover enough house at the house and not get the edges too wet, not the center too wet, and then always something.
So one of the things that I thought about talking about today, whenever decided to have you on, was for me, like Donna's Farms was always known for growing like I'm not gonna say the offshoot variety, but like unique varieties of things. And I kind of wanted to talk like briefly about that, because maybe not necessarily specific varieties, but like why you chose to do that, because it's not just like trying to be adventurous. And I think this is a thing that a lot of like small time gardeners, we talked about how like they're scared to choose like the scallop squash, like that might grow and be more superior in a sense. The eggplant, or even like the flamingo bell.
The bell peppers we had.
But like, why did you choose off the beat varieties when y'all were growing? I'd imagine it had a lot to do with like success. Yeah, 100%. Like Osborne seed was great for me. A lady, I'm drawing a blank, her name was there at Seed Rep Forever. We would spend hours talking about seeds, and no one was growing stuff down there. So she would send me some stuff sometime. The biggest thing is your California Kings, your Black Beauties, all these not generic, but standard names everyone knows.
California King bell peppers suck here. They grow horribly. You're not gonna get something about this big and nothing. So we looked at different varieties that would grow better here. Like we switched to the Dancer eggplant from Johnny's. It was developed down in Puerto Rico. It handled the heat. The bushes would get 6 feet tall. I joked it looked like the emoji eggplant on your phone, but it was a nice size. The biggest thing that drove us was size and growth. It's like, for example, when we used to grow some winter squash, say spaghetti squash, most in the store are like massive 3-4 pounders. If it's you and your significant other, you're going to eat that at one time. You're going to look at it and go, I don't need this much.
Yeah.
So growing, and they say, for example, butternut squash, they may put on 4 or 5 per plant. Well, if I get a smaller variety that's maybe a pound or 2, and I can get 15 off of it, and it's just 2 of you, you're going to eat that whole thing, and it'll give me $2 for it, versus spending 5 or 6, and I can sell it for say $2 a pound, and it's a pound. There's $2 for this. Whereas the 4 or 5 pound one, I can only sell for maybe $1 a pound. So if I got 15 per plant at $2 a piece, that plant made me $30 versus getting.
So for you, is not only was it like a business decision, but it's also like a demographic. Like, and that makes sense because like I feel you talked about like earlier before we started recording today about like growing the onions in the cluster.
Yeah,
and that like I love growing onions in a tighter space.
Yep.
Because I don't want them to get softball size.
Yeah.
I don't love. I mean, I like onion, but I don't love it that much.
Are you going to use a 1 pound onion? Or are you going to need one that's a baseball size?
And then I find it in the fridge a couple weeks later.
Yep.
And I'm like, dang it, like I forgot about this. So I'm able to like use not only varieties, but techniques to grow things that get them to where they're usable for me.
Yep.
And I'm eliminating waste.
That's the big thing we found when we used to do a CSA is we'd have people get stuff. And the biggest thing they hated with CSA was getting it and having too much and it going to waste. Yeah. So they felt like they wasted it. You want to give people just enough where they feel satisfied and they get what they want. Restaurant models the same way. Being in the restaurant, if you go somewhere for a meal, you want to be able to get someone to buy an appetizer, an entree, and dessert, and they feel full and satisfied, but they're not. You don't want to sit where they get one giant entree. This is not Roadhouse and they're getting Olive Garden. They're getting one thing. A good restaurant will set you up to where you're going to buy an appetizer, an entree, and dessert, and you're going to end up spending more of those 3 things and getting that one entree. You're going to get, but you're satisfied. Think you go to eat somewhere and I just want one more bite, but you're full. But you could have one more bite. You're not just stuffed. So vegetables are the same way. Something that 2 people, we found most of our customers are 1 or 2 people. Not many are feeding families, so they want enough to use for them.
But
right?
Even if you are feeding family, you take like like you're saying, one that's like a quarter of the size. Even the large one could still be potentially too big for a family of 4 because just because there's 4 people doesn't mean they're all going to eat it.
Exactly.
I know that. Like I only have 1 kid, but like my kid doesn't eat everything, and when he eats something, my significant other doesn't eat it.
Yeah.
So it's there's lots of waste, and so I have to be really intentional about what we make.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to throw it away, and I'm a busy person, so I don't always have time to eat leftovers. So
100%.
I'm trying to cook it and use it if we
Yeah.
can. I think that's cool. I was just very curious if my assumptions were right.
Yeah, your assumption like and then with the peppers with the flamingo, we liked them because if you're going green to red, ripe is sweeter, but they went from this yellowish to orange, and you could pick up at the color stage. People like colors.
Yeah.
And they, we could get some big ones early, but it gets hotter, but they were still producing the heat, and they had good flavor to them. Flavor was a big thing, and be able to produce and handle.
That's like bell pepper. Like people always they want like large bell peppers, but like
they don't.
For me,
they're
like,
tricky here.
They are tricky, but like if I can grow a variety that produces a lot of like medium size, unless I'm growing them specifically to stuff them, which I don't feel is the mass demographic of bell pepper growers, like I could just pick a couple more instead of trying to grow like a variety that's going to produce larger and most likely produce less per plant. Yeah,
like I said, if you're making your gumbo or your jambalaya, you may only use half that massiss bell pepper, the rest has wasted. But if you get 2 smaller ones, use the whole thing, and you're not. I
don't think people think like that.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally off base here. But for as long as I've been doing this, like those core varieties, like people are married to them.
That's
like
what they know. Celebrity. Like I know there was a big deal when celebrity changes. They're improved celebrities. The Hossinator's a new one people are pushing out now because I know Greg's been pushing that one. It's a great tomato. The Hossinator is. Some of those, but people want their what's the old Louisiana that they always talked about?
I want the Creole.
The Creole, and it's like they're
still asking for the Gulf States.
The Gulf States, they're like 20-year-old varieties that A&M or one of them that produced, like A&M just came out with a new jalapeno. They improved the A&M one again.
Yeah.
But it has like no heat. It's like a habanana that they developed, have no habanero heat.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's better varieties now out there than those. Better disease packages and things like that to them. But people, people do what they're comfortable with. Their grandfather did this.
They do. I mean,
that nostalgia
comfort,
and that.
comfort is important in most things, but I think people would be, oftentimes think, at least in my mind, that people would be more satisfied in their gardening ventures if they were a little more adventurous. I'm not saying don't grow the staples, but if you have the opportunity to plant a different pepper or a different eggplant, even if it's only one, take that chance, because that one chance could change what and how you grow going forward forever, because you might find the next best thing.
Yeah. Like those bell peppers, for example, my dad, a lot of people having the problem with them repeating on themselves. These didn't. The flamingo variety and the other one, they didn't repeat, and they had good sweetness to them. They weren't. Sometimes you can have bitterness too.
Yeah, we enjoyed those. A lot of people didn't. Some people didn't respond to them because they had that yellow color to them. They want that green.
Yeah.
It's like color is not always like green bell pepper and a red bell pepper. Let me blindfold you and let's talk about taste. Yeah, like the sweetness might be different, but can the average person differentiate? Like some can. But
don't get me wrong. Yeah, red should be sweeter, should be nicer actually than the green ones. A little bit of bitterness to them because they're. That's why you see green jalapenos. You see a lot of green peppers because people don't realize, why are they always green? Well, they store and last. A green jalapeno lasts twice as long as a red jalapeno because red's ripe.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, okay, once you pick a fruit, it's starting to rot. Your controlled decay is what you're doing once you pick a fruit. I don't care if it's a tomato. I don't care if it's this. Yes, tomatoes you can pick them green, ripen them, and do this and stuff. You're controlling the decay of that plant once you pick it. Once they pick the fruit, any fruit. I don't care what it is. It's to control decay.
Yeah.
At that point, how long can I make it last?
Yep.
Like we grew a ton of lettuce. We just grow tons and tons of lettuce. And people, why don't you have it in the summertime? Ma'am, do you want to be outside at night? Oh, no. The lettuce is the same way. But tons and tons of it. But lettuce is for a gardener, it's a phenomenal crop. We can get $3 a bag. It was roughly 6 ounces of fresh, crisp lettuce. But it's a horrible crop. What can you do with lettuce? Nothing but eat it fresh.
Yeah.
And you don't cook it. You don't freeze it. You don't. So it's a great crop because hot, but it's like
I have had it one time.
grilled romaine,
grilled with olive oil on it and salt, and that's the only thing that has ever been outside of the norm, and it was delicious.
I mean, romaine's a hold. Some of them will hold up to that,
but
it's definitely different. People won't venture on that, but for the most part, romaine will grow here pretty decent. Some of the mini heads will. Iceberg, forget about it.
No, it's not cold.
We're a looser leaf. We're temperate. Like, for example, we grew more of the Asian varieties here because they handle the heat. Asian countries, they handle the heat. The choys and all the bok choys, things like that, are their cabbage. Yeah. Whereas a lot of stuff people are used to, the European, round ones that are European, Northern Europe, their climate cooler, longer times. I was talking to a lady on our Facebook post I made the other day about wanting to grow kohlrabi, and I'm like, brassicas were a love-hate for me. Love-hate, because I'd have a whole crop of beautiful cauliflower or broccoli, and then we get a rain, and it would start to rot, and the top quarter inch would be done.
This year it was cool so long.
It was beautiful. It was a great spring.
Even though, in fall, all of my brassicas, they grew, they started putting on, and even though it was cooler than normal at the time, I didn't get a single solitary head. They're so temperamental. It's where, and that could be specific to my space, but even my space is in a shady spot, so I should have even had cooler temperatures, but I did not.
Could be varietal too.
I didn't get a single head of anything. It all bolted and flowered, and it's, so I agree with you. Their brassicas, not to say it shouldn't grow them, but they can be temperamental, and that is a common complaint I get from gardeners, that they're hit or miss some seasons.
Yeah, 100%. We had some that were good year. We had, big 5-6 pound cauliflower heads, beautiful. But a lot of which are the Asian varieties, and there's some smaller ones out there. The last year we grew, there was a round one, about softball sized cabbage, and one was kind of pointed. But you could put them 9 inches apart, like perfect mini size. Like if it's two of you, you get a 3 pound head of cabbage, you're going to waste half of it. What do I do? They can do something with it. If I can use it in one meal and be done with it, like our bros outside, I figured we started switching everything outside to 50-foot beds. because I figured that was a number of stuff I could sell. Like we used to grow hacker rye turnips, the beautiful salad turnips. When I first grew them, I grew a 90, 100-foot bed, and I could sell them. Taste changed, people changed. We got nowhere 50, down to like 10 feet bed was what I could sell. Anyway, we figured outside 50-foot bed was a perfect number for spacing, for crop rotation, for things like that. We'd come to determine. And in that 50-foot bed, if I do 3 rows, 9 inches apart, I could put like 300 heads of cabbage of those smaller varieties. Yeah. It's the same spacing we did for most of our flowers as well, was 9 inch. So I could reuse the same holes, the same fabric. We didn't have to burn more fabric. So it was like 300 heads. And if I could get $2 a head, that row made me, even if it was $400, made me a lot of money. You know, compared to like, we stopped growing green beans for a while because green beans you get maybe 2 pickings. If you're getting $3 a pound, which is pushing price, you might get 100 pounds and for 2 or 3 times worth of work versus, you know, so we switched to some of the long beans for a while, but just some crops on a market garden scale aren't economical. You know, growing pole beans is better because you get multiple pickings. You can use the arches and plant under them and stuff like that. But it's just, you got to figure out what your market wants, what, you know, will grow well for you, and then grow what you can grow well. That's what we kind of got down to.
And I think that's like, if you think about like farmers markets, like, you know, around here and just generally anywhere, the difficulties that you experienced in your time in growing on the farm, like that's the reason why it's so hard to find people to bring produce consistently and provide people what they want, because like you have no idea what you're going to sell when you show up. You know, you might show up and sell it all. You might show up and sell absolutely nothing of something, but you still put the work in, and now it's a ticking time bomb.
I tell people we were the biggest gamblers in the world. You want to gamble, put some seeds, spend $3,000 on your spring seeds in the fall, betting on the come on that you're going to hit on something. We knew tomatoes would sell. We knew certain things would always sell, but can you be the first to market with it? And that's what some of the oddities we grew, because people knew these different varieties, and they were smaller, they were better flavor. Once they tried them, we'd give people some stuff sometimes. Just sure, take it and try it. You know,
you got to get people to give it a shot.
Around here, I tell people that we're a refinery town. We're the armpit of Texas. Their refineries are here. You know, good friend of mine, Butch Arsman, there was dairies in Mid County, dairies all the time. People were farmers, but when the refineries came in, I tell people the refineries came in. You can go work one day in the refinery and make a week's pay on the or work a week on the farm and get the same pay. Where are you going to go?
Yeah,
you know. Go make that, 5 months worth of pay in a week on the refinery. They'll pay you 10 times. You don't have to sweat hard. You sit in the room with your Nomex on, and you're like, all right, cool. I read their instruments all day. I got paid $120,000 a year.
Yeah.
Or do you want to go out there and sweat and be dying in the heat, and you're just, drinking a gallon of water to stay up hydrated?
I'd rather go outside.
I'm an outside kind of guy myself too.
But not everybody's that way.
No, it's tough. But like I said, my biggest gripe, and I'm on the Beaumont Farmers Market Board. We're trying to get more people there to the market. There's 100,000+ people in Beaumont. The last time we had over 1,000 people show up at the Beaumont Farmers Market, which is 1%, less than 1%, was before COVID. And at the time, when we first we were selling 1,500 pounds of tomatoes on a Saturday, one Saturday morning, we'd have a line 50 deep for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Cranking out tomatoes as much as we could move them. Me and Dad just hand out bags. We're taking, stacking cash, and me and my dad would work just tomatoes, and Mom would handle everything else. For 2 hours almost. We had to have cops there directing traffic. That many people would show up for tomatoes. Things changed during COVID. That's what's just fine. People started growing more, but just, this area changed where it's convenient now to go on your HEB app, have them delivered to your car, bring it to your home.
Yeah.
People don't have time. I used to put out a list every week of what we had at the farm stand. And we had a great selection, seasonal, but people like, oh, you don't have avocados? No, ma'am, they don't grow here. Even pulling my buddy Garrett stuff at the point where I would grow carrots. I could grow carrots well, but we were selling a 50-foot bed a week. I can't sustainably grow that. He's got much better soil. I would work with him. So a 50-foot bed produced about 50 bunches. And that's how many carrots, like with tops on, that's what we would use a week. And people love the carrots, and then I couldn't grow enough of them. So do what you do best. I would send lettuce to him for his market. That's where my excess lettuce stuff would go to them in Central City Co-op in Houston. We'd meet there, him as driver. I'd get carrots and the staple stuff that I can't grow potatoes well. I can't grow the winter squash well. They have sandy soil down there south of Houston on the Brazos River area where he's at in Wharton. So we would just, it allowed me to bring more produce to the people by partnering with him and being part ownership, doing that kind of barter trade system of working with each other's farms. He didn't like going and let salad mix, but he had his customers that would always want it. So we would,
got to work together.
Farmers helping farmers, and that's what we try to do around here. But we were the closest farm to Beaumont, and we had our farm center. We were still too far away, being in Finette. Like Mr. Taylor comes from Kirbyville, Miss Shirley from Livingston. There's a new farmer coming now at the Beaumont from Newton. So Painted Angels is up in Comus Neal. So you figure the farmers who are coming from an hour away to Beaumont,
Yeah.
And we're working to get some things to get a few more backyard. If you had like a backyard garden here, to have like a little nook for them and some things like this, just take some time to do on the board. But it's just tough. I mean, it's just people don't want to do it. When it gets hot now, it's June. Do you want to go outside at 7 o'clock in the morning and start working your garden?
I do, but then it's to me too. Like I am that person. I would love to go, but then like I don't have the time. Like my life and like my work and things they don't necessarily allow it. I mean, I'm sure I could find a way, but like the priority scale doesn't always fit in a fast society. So it's. But I definitely give applause to every single person in every market that's still like making it happen.
And that's what happened with us. I mean, the signs were there. The flowers helped save us for the last couple of years. Even those sales started going down some. It's just people change, attitudes change for what you wanted. Like, oh, you don't have this now. The store has it all the time. We weren't convenient enough. Yeah. And I can't be convenient every day. Thursday, Friday, my dad was at the farm stand, run that for us. Saturday morning, everything went to market. The riverfront every weekend or Beaumont, and that was it. We started doing it after Saturday, but we didn't have enough produce left. And we worked when they used to have the raw milk at Beaumont. I was like, oh, maybe we'll start offering at our farm too, to people to come out and shop from us. And it made it nice because they were coming from north of Nacogdoches, so they were like just getting tired of the 3.5 hour drive every Saturday morning. So I said, hey, look, we'll put it at the farm. People come pick it up. I said, cool. They were doing 100 plus gallons of milk. That's 50, 60 people at least. And I was like, cool. People come pick milk, get produce, get everything they need. About 90% of them only got their milk. I'm like, you care about raw milk, but you don't want to buy produce for yourself. And I even was at the point I was baking cookies for a while. It was like a whole nother job on a Wednesday, baking cookies for 5 hours at home, trying to bang out muffins. And they would spend their whatever $12 on the milk and then the other rest on cookies and didn't care about produce. I'm like, cool. I was like, you're here, you're getting your milk, buy some produce. And some of them would, but a lot of them were like, just want my milk, don't care. I'm like, you care, you got to have raw milk, but you don't care what else you're eating?
Yeah.
Like, what do you, but so it's, like I said, when Sarah went to Pennsylvania, she said, we did everything right. She went to this organic growing conference. There's people there put seeds in the ground, don't know what they're doing, but they can't sell enough. And we did everything right. She said, we did everything right. We marketed. We would push videos for about 6 months straight and just trying to put videos out there and content, which is a whole nother thing to try. It is a lot. Is this the right shot to film with? Is this doing this and this doing? It's like, oh my God, I hated editing. She would spend lunch break or an hour or two after lunch in the heat of the day editing videos just to post for us.
I know how that is.
You get it. I mean, it's just, and I could do the content, but I don't want to sit there and edit videos. That's not me. I'll sit there and talk on the film and do that. But it's like, oh, wait, we got to get this shot. We got to stop and do this. I'm like, just get the job done and get out of the heat, So it's a different person to create content. And like I said, it's just every market's different. I have friends in the Carolinas, Raleigh-Durham area, and there's farms like we were. There's probably 20 of them, 30 of them in that area. They all work together, though. They all know each other. Like one of them, she grows winter crops, storage crops, and the other bigger farms that do summer stuff buy from her. But they all don't. But people, there's no HEBs there. Nothing against HEB. I love it. They do a great job, but maybe they've done too good of a job now of catering to people, and catering to the instant need, the Amazon, I got to have it now crowd, which is great. They've done that. They've done a great, phenomenal job. They have a loyal following, but they don't have that there. So everyone goes, it's the farmers market aren't a cultural thing. I mean, nothing against the riverfront, but when we left, people told me that was like, it changed a lot, right? But farmers markets that are farmers markets normally aren't true farmers markets because the farmers start going. People don't buy from the farmer stops going to become a craft knick-knacky market. And technically, to be a farmer's market, there's supposed to be over 51% farmers there. And that's why Beaumont's like, whatever, if you're a farmer, we want you.
Yeah.
Because everyone in the world is going to sell decorated knick-knack cups and clay and pottery. Nothing against that, but no one wants to sell the produce itself. Yeah. It's not a faint of heart game to grow produce for grow, put your heart into the soil and understand that concept. Because I'll tell you right now, anyone who does it well and has done it for a long time ain't a stupid person. You know, they've
probably had many failures.
And that's what I told people. I said, if I mess up, it may be 6 months to a year. Hurricane season rolls through, rips it off, and I can't start again. I mean, the fastest I could get a crop in the ground was 4 weeks. That's like the breakfast radishes, the little small ones, but I couldn't sell 10 bucks. I stopped growing them because I have friends that would sell another place in the country that would sell 200 or 300 bunches a week. I can't sell 10. So we switched to the daikons that, you know, the purples and the greens, the radishes that would store the watermelons and stuff like that because we could sell them fresh, top to top. I could pull them out of the coolers. I needed them, right? Grow one 150-foot bed. I could sell them for a month or two and not have to worry about it. Whether the small French breakfast ones, the really cool ones, they just don't hold up and people don't want to buy them. They're like, no one eats radishes here. You know, what's some people? Oh, you can roast them. You can do this. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. Any root crop you can roast. So educating people was a big thing. I didn't tell them how to cook it, what to do with it. Here, try this. And then, but do they want to cook all the time? You know, it's just kind of one of those what's convenient, you know.
Yeah.
Then after a long day of work, even me, I teach culinary. I get home sometimes, think about to cook for the family when I get home. You know, my wife is, I like to bless her. She does works very hard, takes care of the kids and everything, and does her job. And I try to get home and cook what I'm cooking for dinner. I with my knowledge, I can knock something out pretty quickly for us to eat that's healthy, or whatever. But most people can't do that, so they got to plan ahead. They get the meal prep. They got to do this. What do I do with this? You know,
I'm definitely not a good cook.
And it's tough.
I'm not terrible, but like I don't.
You have things you cook all the time. You always have old faithfuls you fall back on.
My knowledge is not great in the area.
The same thing happened with gardening, though, right? Everything in life, you go by what you know. You know, if you do this, this, and this, you're going to get this result every time, and people like it. And the instant, quick process stuff, open a can, dump it here versus thinking ahead. Can I do this and do this and this? It's just like any discipline takes time, willing to study it, knowledge, gardening, cooking, music. You know, to be a steward, or a steward, but a master or someone who can understand what their craft or whatever you want to call. Yeah. Even cutting lawns, like you have the lawn business. Knowing to look at the yard, know exactly how to cut it properly, quickly, and effectively to get to the next yard. Right? It's an art. Like you can't.
It's not just cutting grass.
It's not just fixing an engine. Anything takes time to learn to do. And do people want to take the time to do that? Or they want to go, oh, here's my app, just send it to my door. Or here's my Blue Apron meal that kind of put together or instant. You know, so.
Well, as we wrap up, I have one final question for you. What would be your number one tip to give to the average gardener out there that changed the way that you did things, like something that impacted you like very heavily in your journey of growing food?
Probably, I don't remember who said it, but the farmer's shadow is the best learning tool and defense in your garden. Meaning, just walk through it. You have to see and observe. You can't just go put the seeds in the ground and walk away for 3 or 4 days. Take your morning coffee, take the 5 minutes of your little raised bed and look at the plants, see what they're doing. Like the shadow of the farmer makes things grow.
That's pretty cool. Like last week, you know, we didn't really have an episode, so I kind of went back and did a part 2 and to an episode I did a few weeks before about how plants in the garden, you know, they don't physically talk to us, but they tell us things, they show us things that help us improve and resolve problems. And I think there's nothing more important than actually spending more time observing than actually doing.
Then the more you observe your garden, the more you go, I see this bug now. I could pick things up in a garden and glance at it, and most people wouldn't notice. Because I've seen so many plants, I know what bug I'm looking at. I'm starting to see things.
I see crazy things that I've never seen before that were probably there all along. That I just wasn't looking long enough to notice. Yeah, I mean, I can think back to working tomatoes. I would just in my head, I could get in a rhythm. People are like, you don't wear headphones? No, I would have the same humming song in my head, and I like the silence of work. I've never been a headphone kind of guy. People do it with headphones. I would get in a rhythm and some little song verse would be in my head over and over. It could be, who knows, random song popped in my head. Or get lost in my thoughts, but I'm in the zone of doing my tomato work. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see something that shouldn't be there, a bug or something I missed. Or next row, and I would stop and go get it. You know, just when you get
to doing anything you get good at, they say take 10,000 hours to be an expert. You know exactly what you're doing. You're in your zone. You're doing it, and you start noticing the little things because you know what you're looking at every time,
right?
And how it should be versus like that shouldn't be there. So like I said, the shadow of the farmer makes your plants grow. Just take the time to walk through your garden, morning, evening. Don't let it go for 3 or 4 days because if you do, those worms are going to pop out. You're going to be so far behind. You're like, oh, my garden's destroyed. Well,
yeah.
Did you check the garden a little bit? And then also, other thing I leave with this too. When the weather's perfect to plant, you're too late. Like, you should be starting tomatoes if you're going to do them yourself around Christmas. Right now we're in June. We would start our first round of brassicas in July inside to germinate them.
Yeah.
And then they're going to the ground in August under shade cloth, heavy 60% shade cloth to establish themselves. So when it cools off, they're growing. So, like, we're planting 6 months ahead. I would order spring seeds, and, like, I would wait for the new catalog to drop, and I'd put some order the first day it dropped on the websites. Because I talked to the seed rep ahead of time because we're so far south, the seed catalogs don't come out to this whatever date in November, and it's like, okay, the northern growers, that's great. Our tomatoes are quitting when the northern guys are just getting them in. So we're so far ahead, like, you want to get the new seeds, but so planning ahead. Right now, if you're done, your tomatoes are going south, prep for your fall garden. Prep it, get the ground amended, topped, and just cover it, even with the tarp to help it solarize and get ready. So when the fall's there, you just pull it back a little. We can talk about another episode of, like, how to small garden can succession plan, because many people I told about that and things they can do to help prepare themselves. Because in other words, when you're a new beginning farmer and you try to do too much and you're just I see some people get frustrated.
We talked about this a few weeks back. We talked about sustainability, and so not from like sustainability of like soil, but sustainable like size, like something that you can actually maintain. So yeah, cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for this one.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming and talking
Anytime.
with us.
I'm here for tons of knowledge to still drop on everybody.
Yeah. So you guys take some time to go outside, observe, plan what's coming up. Before you know it, fall is going to be here. So we'll catch you on the next episode of the Compost Pile.